Hello and welcome to Slapendipity, Hobos of Happy Slappy Town, episode 42. My name is Devon, but you can call me Gibby, and I'm here with...
Eric, who you may call Eric.
And we're also here with you, the listener. Hello. How are you doing? What's going on?
It's a nice shirt you're wearing today. I like the little graphic on it.
You're really killing it today. Okay, so I had this little Dora the Explorer opening moment because I have something I wanna talk about.
Did you recently watch Dora the Explorer and you were like, what does it mean to break the fourth wall to a child, but then to never continue that with more adult entertainment?
No, I had nothing to do with Dora. Although I am now thinking, like, did you watch Dora when you were a kid?
Not because I had to. Like, I would channel surf and there would be Dora, and I would be like, I will watch this as I continue to channel surf.
So you know how Dora would, like, the opening theme song starts with, like, a computer mouse clicking?
Oh.
It's like a computer mouse, like, opens, like, the program and, like, clicks on stuff. Even, like, throughout the episode, it's, like, clicking on, like, let's go here, let's do this.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, like, I am just sort of right now realizing that, like,
Dora is a program.
Within the narrative of Dora, it's like a point-and-click adventure game.
Yeah, I guess so.
Like, did you ever play those, like, for kids, like, adventures, like
Freddy
Pajama
Frisch,
Sam?
Pajama
Freddy
Sam,
Fish,
Putt, Travel
Putt-Putt.
Through Time.
Yeah. Did you play those?
No, Devin, I just know them all.
Okay. But I don't know if you're being sarcastic. I only played one Freddy Fish game, but, like, I know all of them.
I played Freddy Fish, I played Pajama Sam,
Okay.
I played Putt-Putt.
Okay, so, like, within the narrative of watching Dora, is Dora a Pajama Sam character? Like, that's clearly what's happening, right?
Shrug.
She looks at you and she's like, where do
guess.
we go? And then you, like, you click and, like, you open the map and you're like, we're gonna do this. I'm just now realizing Dora is a video game character. She's an adventure game for kids.
But when you play Pajama Sam or Freddy Fish or Putt-Putt, they don't look at the screen, the fourth wall, and go, what do you think we should do, player? It, like, keeps up the illusion of, like, if you click on something, it's like, oh, I can't do that, or I need a sea urchin, or whatever.
Do they? I mean, I'm sure there are some games when they talk to you. I played a couple, like, educational, I'd say more educational than those games, where they're like, you walk in a room and they're like, oh no, the paint has spilled everywhere. We need to clean this up. And we means, like, them and me, like the player and them. Like, we are we. They're guiding us on the adventure.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a minute. I remember in most of the... I remember in Freddy Fish, for sure, there was, like, Arthur, I think was the name, of, like, the little sidekick that came with you. Mm-hmm. So whenever they said we, you could be like, Arthur and I. Arthur and Freddy.
Either way, this is still just, like, blowing my mind.
Well, I mean, it also explains why the map has a song and swipe or no swiping, and you, like, click on him to get him away.
Yeah, and I guess all those games that I would have played would have been from before Dora came out. Like, those would have been in the 90s.
Yeah.
So I guess, like, Dora's following the legacy of those, again,
games,
kid edutainment adventure games. Wow, I cannot believe I'm just realizing this.
Or, like, when she opens up the map and, like, the mouse hovers onto each thing and clicks it, and it's like, this is Great Candy Mountain. We're gonna need a straw to get through here. And then it clicks on a different one, and this is this is Waterfall Soda.
Am I imagining this? Does it start in the real world and, like, zoom in on a computer? Hold on.
No,
I'm vaguely
you're
remembering
imagining
this.
that.
No. There's, like, a cluttered room and it zooms in on a thing.
Nah.
Hold on. Yes, no, I am right. There's this yellow curtains. It's going through a room. there's a Dora drawing, there's a beach ball, it's like tropical paper chains, big green computer, and it zooms in, and yeah, Dora's a character on the computer. Oh my god.
So it was there all along, you just didn't pay attention to Dora.
I was just dumb. Wow.
Wow. We
Dora's a
solved
video game.
the mystery that wasn't a mystery at all.
I don't know how I never picked up on that.
We did it, gang.
Wow, what a great opening to this episode.
Why would you pick up on it, though?
I don't know.
Because it's not, you know...
I just thought of Dora as a character, not Dora as like a...
She is still a character.
A computer game within the show. I don't know. That's weird. It's weird.
Well, it's just a narrative device for the... Or a framing device for the narrative. Yes. You know.
Anyway, the reason I mentioned Dora is because I had a thought over the last couple of days. I was listening to a podcast.
Okay.
And, you know, I think that part of the appeal of listening to a podcast is that you kind of almost want to be part of the conversation yourself. Like, you're listening to people tell stories or talk about something. I'm talking like general podcasts, not like, and this is the news, right? Like,
sure.
I listen to podcasts like Star Wars Minute, where they talk about Star Wars, or the Super Carlin Brothers, where they talk about whatever's going on in their lives, but then then be like, you know, like what's going on in their lives is like playing the Pokemon TCG or watching Pixar movies. So like, I think part of the appeal is like you're listening and you're like, yeah, I agree with that, or no, I don't agree with that, and you just get to think of it like yourself, like you're the third person in the conversation. Have you experienced this with podcasts? Do you listen to podcasts?
I do listen to podcasts, and I don't do that for the most part.
You don't ever feel like you're like, I want to say this about the topic they're talking about? Not
really. I have no desire to like write in and be
I don't mean like writing in to participate. I mean that you feel like part of what it's giving you.
No, yeah.
The feeling of being in a conversation, even though you're not actually in the conversation.
I, for the most part, am like, wow, I am a fly on the wall listening to someone else's conversation. I don't... they'll have, right, a topic will come up on like, I don't know, on this video game or whatever, and my own thoughts will come up, because that's how listening works. And sometimes I'll be like, oh, they should, like, this is a point that I would bring up, but I don't feel like I am the third person in this conversation. I'm just, like, eavesdropping.
So, like, I know that when, like, a trailer drops for something, or, like, a big episode of a TV show comes out, and you're like, oh my god, there's a big twist in it, that I like watching people react to it, even though I've already seen it. And the point is to, like, see their reaction. It's like, oh, you know, let's say a show like Agatha All Along, right? The latest MCU show. There's a lot of episodes that had, like, big twists and reveals in them. And so I'd go and I'd watch new rock stars, like, reacting to the episode. And it's like, it's kind of lets me feel like, oh, none of my friends watch the show. I have no one to talk about it to. But when I'm watching them react, it's almost like I'm part of the conversation.
Nah, I don't. I've never, for the most part, watched react videos.
Have you ever had, like, the desire to talk to people about something that you're interested in, but none of your friends are?
Yes.
Well, then may I recommend React content?
No. Well, so the closest I've gotten to that, I guess, is there's an anime, ReZero, that I've been watching, and now it's on a hiatus, and Crunchyroll is dumb. And they removed the comment section as, like, an attempt at making things more civil, because whatever. So normally, I guess this is the closest. I do have a shred of this, I suppose, because when I finish an anime episode, I would go into the comments section and, like, see what other people thought and stuff. But now that that's gone away, I found a YouTuber who, like, gives analysis and general thoughts on it, and that has, like, curbed my comment viewing.
Hmm. But you don't do it, you think, to fill the desire to have a conversation about the topic.
No, it's more just like a curiosity of like what are other people thinking,
You know when
or
like,
like
the stereotypical dad yells at the TV during football?
sure,
You don't have that listening to podcasts?
no.
Oh,
I've
okay.
always thought that was dumb. I get it, emotions, right? But like when the football man does a bad football and you yell at the TV, it's like, what are you doing? Why? Why?
You're participating. You're there, you know? You feel like you're a coach.
No.
That's the fantasy that the watching of the sport is giving them. And so when I'm listening to a podcast and they're like, I did this and that, I'll be like, oh my God, I did this and that.
I guess. I wonder if maybe I'm too. Because I've had moments watching things where I'm like, no, don't do that. No, horror movie girl, don't go in the
Mm-hmm.
basement alone.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'll feel stuff like that. I guess maybe it's just on a lesser scale. Like, it's the same thing of what you're saying, but just not as intense, maybe.
So recently you read through a draft of the book that I wrote.
I did.
And after that, you made a comment to all of our friends who also have copies of the book but haven't read it yet. And you're like, you guys need to read this so I can, like, talk to someone about it.
This is true.
So I asked you, like, hey, leave post-it notes, leave little comments in the margins, tell me, like, this doesn't work, this doesn't make sense, there's a typo here, or hey,
Yeah.
this is where I stopped reading for the day because it got kind of boring.
Mm.
When you're reading a book not specifically to help me edit it, do you ever have the desire to, like, in your head, write a little mental note and be like, this was crazy, or no, didn't like that? Like, do you have those sort of comments when you're reading? I guess you don't really read books as much as you read manga, but do you have comments in your head like that when you're reading something or watching something or listening to something?
Um, yeah, like, that's just note taking, I suppose. But I'm not like, whoa, this was a crazy scene, I need to talk about it, or like mark it for later. I just like just get into it for then, and then I move along.
I feel like whenever I'm interacting with art like that, I always have the desire to, like, oh, I want to tell in this case, the author, like, I
Mm,
want to tell the author what I feel about this segment.
mm.
Um, but obviously that's not possible. So I'll just, like, say it to myself or think it to myself or whatever, and then that sort of, like, scratches that itch. It's like listening to podcasts. It's like it scratches the itch of, like, oh, this is what I would want to say on this topic. And then, I like imagine myself having the conversation with, like, those people, talking about, if I'm in the car listening to a podcast and they bring up a topic, I then, like, imagine myself, how would I respond? What would I say in this scenario? Um, and then it's the same thing reading a book. It's like, what would I say to the author about this? Because I just think that we have a desire to want to talk about things. Like, again, you said you want to talk about my book. One of our friends is, like, begging us to play Red Dead Redemption 2 because he's no one to talk about it with. And that game's been out for like 5 years, and he's just like, I want to talk to people about it. And personally, I do own the game. I will play it at some point, but, like, I don't really like open world games like that, and Red Dead Redemption 1 is probably my least favorite game of all time. I really hated that
Oof.
game, and so I'm just not super open to,
Not
like,
looking
playing the
forward
sequel.
to it.
But, like, I also, I know, like, obviously they're different games, and just because you don't like the first game in a series doesn't mean that you won't like the second game in a series. Um, but, like, I totally understand his desire to talk to people about it, and I'm like, yes, that is also how I feel about lots of things, because none of our friends, like, watch the Star Wars shows that I watch or the MCU shows that I watch or know literally anything about FNAF, and so I have no one to talk to them about. The difference is that I am a YouTuber, and so I can just go and make videos or talk on my podcast about them and then interact with, like, the
Oh my
community.
gosh.
But most people,
The
everyone else I
hacks.
know, doesn't have that ability. And so I guess my overall question that I've been leading you towards is, do you think that there is a do you think that it's a big influence, reason, big reason Do you think that one of the reasons that people start YouTube channels is because they want to talk to people about something and can't, and so they just put their ideas out there and then foster a community, etc.?
Hmm. 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 Well, before I answer that question, let me bring up another thing really quick.
Mm-hmm.
I have, like, my brother and I have read, he was in a writing club at one point. And so we got someone else's, like how I read your book, right? He and I read someone else's book with, like, notes in the margins and whatnot. And we would talk about it, and we would talk about it for so long. It was so much fun to be like, okay, this chapter, these things happened, what's going on here, and blah, blah, blah. So it is fun, and I do get it. I think one of my things is I've just have been into, like, so much stuff that other people aren't. And so I know, like, I'm not expecting to talk to anyone about it. I'm like, I have my thoughts about it, and maybe they'll happen during or as after I'm reading the thing or watching it. And then I'm like, cool, I am content, and I have learned I have to be content because no one else is going to participate in it. And so I think that is what happened to me. As to if that's why people make YouTubes, I guess it could be part of it. I think one of the things of, like, starting a YouTube would be, like, it's a viable job, question mark, at least more so than it used to be. And you're your own boss, and you make your own hours, and you talk about the things you want to talk about. So it's very alluring from that side of things. And then you get to talk about the things you want to talk about, which I guess would be that thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say it's a factor. I wouldn't say it's the sole reason. I mean, maybe it is for, some cases, obviously, but I don't think Markiplier was one day like, I want to play games with everyone to hear me talk about playing the games. I don't know. I don't know his story, actually. Maybe that was a...
I will say that personally, that is a big factor in why I started making videos and make videos. I've told the story a couple times, but the reason I started YouTube is because I was so angry about The Force Awakens that I just had to rant about it. I never made that original video, but that is why I started. And then my channel really picked up steam because I had a conversation with one of our friends about Chris Chan. And then the next day I had more to say, and so I just recorded my thoughts and then posted a video, and then it got views and I got subscribers. I'm like, oh, I guess I can do this.
Mm.
So yeah, I guess, I don't know. I'm like, every time I listen to a podcast, I'm like, this just makes me want to have a podcast. And we do.
Wow.
And so I guess I'm wondering if other people feel the same thing. When you're listening to us right now, are you like, man, I sure do wish that I could say something right now? And then does that ever inspire you to maybe make content?
You could leave that in a comment or respond with your own video.
Yeah, you could leave a comment if you're on YouTube. You could send us an email at slapendipity@gmail.com, or you can make your own podcast.
I think that's an interesting point, and I wonder, like, I wonder if there's any commonality between people, right? Of like, oh, I hear the thing and I'm content with my thoughts to myself, versus I have to speak it and I will throw it into the void if I need to, and the internet is the void.
Mm-hmm.
And then sometimes it works out, and then sometimes it doesn't. Who's to say?
Who's to say?
I do think it's interesting from your end, because I don't, I mean, I'm sure I knew that's why you started at one point, but I may have forgotten. But I think it's interesting to be like, oh, I want to talk about this thing, so I'm going to make a videos on YouTube about it and whatever. But it's not a conversation. You just chuck your voice into the ether. Unless people, like, comment and, you have sequel videos and stuff and you bring in people to talk to.
Which is exactly what I did. Yes, it was with, like, I need to get my thoughts out there into the void, and then if people respond, that's even better. So while I was in the car listening to this podcast,
oh my
gosh,
sure, yeah.
Something happened. So I was at a stoplight, and the light turns green.
Yeah.
Now, if you're making a left-hand turn, then that crosswalk had a walk sign. So with the green light, I could go straight, I could go right, but if I make a left, there could be someone crossing.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
So there's no one coming in any direction. I get the green light. I start making the left. I get about halfway into the intersection, and I put on my brakes because there's a guy crossing.
Yeah.
So, and he has the right of way. He has his little light. I'm making a left turn. I gotta wait for him.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
The car behind me honks.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And the guy crossing the crosswalk shoots me an extremely angry look and gestures at the walk sign that he has.
You point behind you.
And I'm sitting there, and I'm just like, yes, obviously it's an innocent mistake. This guy thinks I honked at him, but, like, I didn't. Also, the guy behind me, what are you honking at? There's someone in the crosswalk. Are you honking at me? You honking at him? You just being stupid?
I want to go. Me drive.
I heard it many years ago. I heard it in a podcast of all things by the amazing Ennie Austin that he said, like, whenever I've been driving in my car, there's never been a situation in which I thought that honking my horn would make the situation better. Like, any scenario in which I think I should honk my horn, you actually just don't need to.
Against people, maybe. Let me tell you, them animals, them's a different story.
Oh, yes, animals is a different story. But yeah, so I'm just like, even if this guy thought I stopped for no... First of all, who would think the person in front of you stopped for no reason? If I'm driving and the guy in front of me stops in the middle of the crosswalk, I'm going to... Or in the middle of the intersection, I'm going to assume there's a reason, and he didn't just decide, you know where I should park? Right here. So, like, I don't know if the guy... Why he would even think it would make sense to honk at me. I don't know what he's honking at. And then also I'm just, like, disappointed that this guy was, like, mad at me when I'm like, no, use your ears. It wasn't me. It was the other guy. Yep.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. People are self-interested, though, you know? They don't care why you stopped. All that matters is you're stopping them. And that's rude.
They're silly men.
You know, do you think how you affected their life by not just going
this guy
anyway?
Over? I could have just swerved into the left lane and, it would have been fine because there are no cars coming. Duh. We'd all have gotten to our destinations 0.5 seconds faster.
Yeah.
All right. You know where I was driving when I was in this car listening to this podcast and got honked at?
To this speed dating event?
I was driving to the movie theater.
Oh.
Oh. I saw Moana 2.
Wow. That's a movie.
That morning, I watched Moana 1 for the first time.
Okay.
I now know how to say Teika, the bad guy from that movie.
Okay.
Me and you play Lorcana, which we've talked about on this podcast, and I play with that card, and I never know how to say it, but now I do because I've seen the movie.
I want you to know, every time you mispronounced it, I corrected you, and you went, psh. And I went, Devon, I'm not trying to be annoying. This is how you say the thing's name.
I just knew I was never going to remember it. So yeah, Teika, I know it now.
But, interesting.
Yeah, well, because the movie.
So it takes watching. Is that I'm not good enough for you? It has to come from a movie.
I just knew that whenever I thought about it, I'd be like, okay, wait. I know one of us said Teika, and one of us said Tika. I don't remember which one was which. So yeah.
I see.
So like,
you can't even get your memory straight just talking to someone.
I had an employee once. I've had multiple employees over the years. Some of them are named Kayla, some named Kyla. And so there was this one girl whose name, I think her name was Kyla. See, I can't even remember right now. And whenever I saw her, I'd be like, okay, remember, it's Kyla, not Kayla. And I'd see her and I'd be like, wait, or is it Kayla, not Kyla? Like, I know it's one of them and not the other, but I don't know which one it is, and I never figured it out.
Sounds like a skill issue.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds like you should just know the names.
Mm-hmm.
What's up with that?
I should give up half my life to know their names. Anyway, so I went to see Moana 2.
Right.
And first of all, Moana 1, mid-movie, didn't like it. Moana 2, slightly better, liked it a lot more. Not a perfect movie, not a great movie, but I vastly enjoyed the second one over the first one.
I think that's a hot take. As someone who's seen neither, I cannot say.
Well, I think people are wrong. I mean, a lot of people love the first one, and they're like, it's the best 3D Disney movie. It's better than Frozen and Tangled. And I'm like, I don't know what movie you're watching, but okay. So yeah, I think that the first one's mid and the second one's good.
Mm-hmm.
But the second one has a line of dialogue that I really liked.
Now the fishing line?
No, a line of dialogue. They don't use fishing lines. They use like spears and stuff to get them fishes.
Tell me this line of dialogue.
So in the first movie, Moana's probably like 16 or so, and she goes off on her adventure, right?
Sure.
And I think that the main reason I don't like that movie is just because it didn't appeal to me like as an adult at all. I'm like, I really don't want to watch a movie where a 16-year-old is like, I want to go on an adventure, and the dad is like, it is too dangerous, you should not. And then she goes on the adventure anyway and proves him wrong. I have no desire to watch a movie like that. I think that's really stupid. It's like the same as like The Little Mermaid. The difference is that when I watched The Little Mermaid, I was a child, and that the thing that the father was like forbidding her to do was like something that would make her fall in love. It's not that she wanted to go like, I want to go on this dangerous quest to like stop a great evil. She's just like, I want to go where the people are. And so you can be like, okay, the thing that he is holding her off from is making connections with other people and falling in love because he just doesn't want his daughter to grow up. Whereas in Moana, the father's like, I don't want you to go on this quest because you're going to have to fight a demigod. And she's like, you can't tell me what to do, Dad. And I'm like, that's not the same thing. This is just kind of dumb.
So you don't like people to have agency over themselves, is what I'm hearing.
I think that as much as I think that like Triton had a point, I think that Ariel had a better point that like you got to risk things to like do anything in life. Whereas Moana, it's like, actually, maybe we shouldn't just send the 16-year-old to fight the god demon that's killing everyone. Except for
I think it's
like, I'm sorry, the reason Moana won is because she had magic ocean powers. Her father did not know that she had magic ocean powers. The father was still correct.
Maybe he should have taken an interest in her life and learned that she had magic ocean powers, and then she could have trained her magic ocean powers.
And then
also,
so like
just super quick.
Yeah.
I get your thing with King Triton, but also it wasn't like another mermaid. It was like, let me expose myself to humans and reveal that an entire underworld water city exists,
but it's for love.
That'll be fun. Maybe love's
well, no, but I think that kind of isolationism is like bad. You know, like maybe the mermaids and the humans should live together. Like maybe that's a good thing.
I don't know. If you watch the second one, maybe it's not.
I didn't. It's not canon. So there was the second Moana. Now it's a couple years later. She has a little sister. I think one of the things I didn't like about the first one is that there was no like interesting family dynamics, and the family dynamic that was there I did not like. You know, you compare it to like Frozen, where there's two sisters, or a lot of other Disney movies where there's like characters that you can actually enjoy. Moana was just Moana being mad at her dad, and then she meets the rock character.
Maui.
Whereas in this one, Maui, yeah. Whereas in this one, she has a little sister. And so, like, their connection is, like, the entire impetus for the story. And then when they go on their big boat adventure, they bring, like, 3 of their friends along. So now there's 5 people on the boat, if you include Maui. And, like, there's just more people to talk and care about. And I'm like, wow, this is, like, what I wanted the first movie to be. So I liked it a lot more. But the important thing is that there must have been at least a couple years that have passed because she has the younger sister.
Sure.
So when she's setting off on her adventure, she talks to the ghost of her grandma.
Yes, it
and and Moana's just like, oh my god, I'm so, like, I promised little sister that I'll be back, but like I might die. And, you know, she's like, I knew when I went on my first adventure that I might die, and I was worried that I would die. But now I'm worried on my sister's behalf that I might die.
Mm-hmm.
And the grandma goes, the last time you weren't old enough to know what you had to lose.
Okay.
And that's the line.
That's the line.
That's the line I love. That was like, oh my god.
You weren't
Last
old
time
enough
to know what you had to lose. Oh, it hurts so good. And also, it kind of vindicates me because I'm like, yes, she was stupid in the first one, but now she recognizes that.
I don't think anyone's calling her stupid.
No,
also she did do the thing.
She had magic powers.
Okay, she still did it.
It's easy to do when you have magic powers. Anyway, yeah, I'm sorry. In this movie, they're like, she's the greatest wayfinder ever. I'm like, she can talk to the ocean. She didn't develop a skill over time and prove herself. She's magic. Oh my god. Anyway, I just think that line was great, and I'm like, yes, that confidence and bravery isn't real if you don't understand. It's not bravery if you don't know what you have to lose, right? That's the difference between courage and stupidity. Stupidity is doing something risky. Courage is doing something risky, knowing it's risky.
Yeah. I think.
No, that's true.
Oh, okay, great.
Yeah, no, that's the thing. So Moana 2 is a good movie, but much better than the first one. I like the line. I know how to say take a now.
Wow.
Yeah. Okay, that's all I got. You got anything that you did this week?
Well, I just want to say a thing about Moana 1 and other movies like it, which, again, having not watched it, but it do be hard when you have a story and there's like one, maybe two characters in the story, and it's like, go, be good. That's a lot of weight for two characters to carry.
Yeah, and I don't think they accomplished it.
Yeah.
In the first one.
Yeah.
No.
You know, I don't know of many stories that do.
Lord of the Rings.
No, there's so many characters in that.
Frodo and Sam on their little adventures.
But that's an A plot. There's a B plot and a C plot. You're not just following two characters the entire time. You're following Aragorn and the war effort, and you're following Gandalf, and whoops.
Well, I do think that, you know, if I'm watching a movie that only has two people, sometimes I might think that I'm the third person in the story, and I can talk to them and interact with them, like a podcast.
Wow,
that's I connected everything together. Okay, what did you do this week?
I went and got Trent. You remember Trent from last week?
The Christmas tree.
The Christmas tree.
Yes, the Christmas tree.
He's not imaginary anymore. We got him.
Okay.
You know, he's cool. He fits well. You know, do you do the thing where you like crush up Advil or ibuprofen or whatever and put it in with the initial water to help them with their injury of being cut and everything?
I have never heard of that in my entire life.
So when you get the Christmas tree and you get it from the farm and you cut it down and everything and you let it sit so that it, you know, can adjust and make sure there's no spiders in it and stuff like that. The first time, you know, you like put it in the tree stand and everything and you give it water because it needs water to live. And the first time you give it water, you know, it had just got cut down. Maybe it spent the night in, you know, not without any water. It's got a headache and everything. So you crush up some Advil or ibuprofen or Tylenol, whatever, and then you mix that in with the water and you have them, you know, reduce the pain.
I'm Googling this. So what I do, right? We put like sugar in the water. She just
Okay.
says you can add crushed up anti-inflammatory pills like Advil to the water to help it last longer. Others say that adding extra supplements like aspirin, sugar, bleach, or floral preservatives to the water is unnecessary and doesn't make a difference. In fact, research suggests that plain tap water is all that is needed. Um, so I get like it's a thing, I guess.
Hmm.
Um, but I've never heard of that one before.
Oh yeah, yeah. Because it hurts.
Well,
Wouldn't you be
I
hurt if someone chopped off your legs? You'd want a little Advil.
what? Some people
I don't
spray
know,
their
man.
tree with hairspray.
That's weird.
Well, because it kind of sticks the needles to it. Um, Another
Uh,
myth is that vodka in the water can extend the tree's life.
trees need drinks.
What? That's all. That's interesting. Okay, but it looks like most of the stuff I'm seeing is saying that it's just not necessary.
Except for that first thing that was like, yeah, Eric's right.
No, no. The first thing is that people do it, not that it works. Interesting. Okay, I'm not just gonna trust the top result on Google, but yeah, that's a thing, I guess.
I mean, if you said you put sugar in yours, I feel like that's
Yeah,
basically the same thing.
I guess. I think the logic with the
It
sugar
is.
is like, oh, trees have sap, so it must need to ingest sweetness.
But why? Because you cut it down recently and maybe it needs sap in it?
Well, yeah, because like the leaves do photosynthesis, which creates the glucose in the tree to help it live. But now that it's inside, it's not going to be getting that, and so you need to supplement it with your own sugar. Like I think that's the logic, even if it doesn't work. I don't know what the logic of Advil is.
It was in pain. I forget the
I just like
logic.
spat out my water. It was in pain. My gosh. Okay, well, is
um,
Trent still in pain? Is he recovering from his amputation?
yeah, no, I think he's gonna be good for a while. He's all nice and dressed up now. Got little lights and baubles and stuff on him, looking shiny and pretty.
Shiny, you
Um,
say?
yeah, Tamatoa
Yes.
would be very interested in Trent. Let me
Yes,
tell you.
from Moana. Yes.
Yeah, yeah, he's a Korean fur. You know, for whatever that's worth.
He's a good boy.
He's a good boy. Yeah, that was
Is it,
probably the what. Hmm?
I was gonna say, is that all you did this week?
That was the biggest thing.
Okay. I think that
Probably.
we should go to break.
There is no break, silly.
Hello and welcome back. I hope you enjoyed the Grand Chase. It's been a while since we've had a break, right, Eric?
What do you mean, Devon? There's been no break. I don't know
No
why you
breaks on
keep
this.
thinking there is.
No breaks on this train. I say
We've
that because
just
there's.
been going.
We went on a break because there was a train outside my window that was honking.
Oh no.
There's probably like the train in front of it probably paused to let someone cross the tracks.
You hate that.
You hate it anyway. We have an email this week. We have a
Wow.
correspondence from one of our viewers, one of our listeners.
That's
She
nice
probably
of
thinks
them.
that she's like the third person in the conversation, right, Eric?
I mean, she could. I don't know.
I think everyone does. Okay. So, this
Whoa.
is because that's how you listen to podcasts. So
Oh.
this is from Sophie.
Hi,
And
Sophie.
so she sent this on the 1st of December, so we're a couple days after that. And she asks if we have any start of new month traditions. And she says that she does, and that's on the 1st of the month. She says white rabbits. And she says that if we don't know this tradition, to look it up. And I did look it up because I've never heard of it before. Have you ever
Okay.
heard of this before, Eric?
I haven't.
So it's apparently something from the UK
Okay.
where people say white rabbits, or they say rabbit, 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 or they say bunny, bunny. And apparently
Okay.
just invoking rabbits as the first thing you say on the start of a month will bring you luck. So you wake
Hmm.
up on the 1st, and the first thing out of your mouth is rabbits or bunnies, and you'll invoke the luckiness of bunnies.
Interesting.
Apparently, even FDR did this.
Wow.
Yeah, never heard of it before, but yeah, interesting.
Hmm.
Do you have any first of the month traditions, Eric? Because I do, and I think you know what it is, but I'll let you talk first.
Well, yours is watching Star Wars.
No.
All 9 movies in one day on the first of every month.
I spend one day a month every 30 days. I spend the entire time inside watching 9 movies. No. Um that's funny though.
I
Do
do
you
not
have any?
have any.
Okay.
I live life balls to the walls and just we're just outside flapping our wings seeing what hits us.
So for me, I've been doing this for years at this point. But in the group chat that we have, on the first of every month, I change my profile picture
Yes.
and my name. So
Yes.
every month it's a different name or thing. So whenever like something funny happens in the chat and we take a screenshot of it, if I ever go through my old screenshots, I can tell like, oh, this is when my profile picture was this. This is when my name was that. So I've had different names and different profile pictures every month for the last several years.
Yes.
So like toward the end of November, someone I forget the exact context, but I sent a picture like a screenshot of Grand Theft Auto 3.
Sure.
And one of our friends is like, "Oh, this looks like this isn't a video game. This is just what it looks like being Italian." And then, zoomed in on one of the characters and was like, "This is literally just what Devon looks like." And so, if he was a greaser, and so my profile for this month is the main character from I think GTA 4 or GTA 3, one of those, and it's just like, Devon if he was a greaser.
Wow.
Wow.
I think the closest I get is just like whenever there's a full moon, I appreciate it.
Moons are cool. Stars are cool.
Stars do
Space
be
is
cool.
cool. It would be
It's so
nice if
bright.
it
Uh-huh.
would be nice if it wasn't ruined, because every time I look up at the stars now, I think about the evil spy drones that are going to kill us all. But that's fine.
Ah.
So I forgot to talk about this earlier, but I made a poll on Twitter. So in case you guys aren't aware, there's currently an enormous crisis going on in the state of New Jersey and part of southern New York, where there's just a bunch of drones everywhere. And like the FBI won't tell us anything, but it's pretty obvious that they're like foreign government spy drones because there's nothing else that they could be. There's an incident where like a helicopter had to make an emergency takeoff from a hospital, and it couldn't because of all the drones. And these drones are just flying everywhere, and like it's obvious that they're like taking pictures, and like whether it's the topography of the land or it's like of people and cars and movements and stuff. But like this is like a huge deal. Like if you live in New Jersey, this is like all anyone's talking about. And I made a poll on Twitter. I'm like, have you heard about the drone crisis? And I got 200 votes, and 73% of people said no. And then of the remaining 27%, they said yes, they heard about it on the news or they've seen it from people, and 7% said that they've actually seen one. And 7% of 200 is 14. So 14 people on my Twitter poll have actually seen one. But the majority of people have not heard of it, which is
Yeah.
crazy. Like, I don't know how it's not a massive story.
Well, would you ask, um, someone living in Venice if they were like, guys, have you heard about the sinking of our city? And they go, yeah, no, maybe, shrug.
I like my thing. Someone's like, "Oh my god, this is crazy. How is this not bigger news?" And like how I vocalized it is, I'm like, how is this not something that the conspiracy theorist YouTube channels have jumped on? Where's Moist Critical's video? Drone situation is insane, and then he talks about like apparently there's these giant spy drones flying all over New Jersey and no one knows what they are. Like, where are those videos? This has been going on for like a month. No one is talking about it.
Because that's not lizard people.
It is lizard people.
We lizard or mouse people.
We're mouse people. They're lizard people.
No, we said the world was run by mouse.
Okay, but we're evolved from mice. Anyway, the point is, I forget where I was going with this. Oh, the stars. Yeah. Every time I look up in the night sky, I'm like, oh no, what if I'm being droned?
I mean,
And if you haven't heard the story, just Google it, because again, it's crazy. But yeah, big spooky.
Hooray!
Hooray! Okay, so we're at the end of the episode, right? It's over, right? There's nothing more for us to talk about. Wrong. What did we do this week, Eric?
We went speed dating, which I alluded to earlier.
Yes, we did.
Wow.
What's the one major thing I'm gonna point out and say that I think is like crazy and confuses me and upsets me, and is also just kind of serendipitous, I guess.
From the speed dating?
From the speed dating.
That a lot of things happened.
Before we get into any like specific stories about like what we felt or how it went, I just feel like you should tell them what happened when you were talking to someone and they asked you how old you were.
Oh, yeah. No, that's crazy. I was going to save that for later, but that can happen now. During the speed dating, I was sat down. A new lady sat down. We talked for a little bit. And she went, "Oh, how old are you?" And I said, "Oh, I'm 29. And she goes, "Oh my gosh, you're a baby." And I go, "What?" And she goes, "You're so young. You're just a baby." And I go, "How old are you?" And she goes, 36. I go, "That's 7 years. That's not that different." She was like, "No, oh my gosh, this could never work now. I'm sorry, but like, and she went off on a tangent. And I was like, I've never felt icks before until then.
You felt the ick.
That was an ick, and I was like, I'm not happy about this, but if it had to happen, I'm glad it's now when I don't care.
And what's great is like, if you guys have listened to all the episodes here, you know that I went on a date that I got from one of these speed dates recently. And I was on the date, and the person asked how old I was, and I said I was 28. And she said, "Oh, you're still a baby." And she was like early mid-30s. I think we determined she was like 34 or something. So it's like, oh. It's like, it's the same word. It's a different person. But like, they used to say, like, "Oh, your age starts with a 2, you're a baby," even though they're only like 4 or 5 or 6 years older. Crazy. Yeah. Crazy to me.
Yeah. I do and don't get it. Like, yeah, sure. Maybe in another 5 years I'd be in a more stable position, or I would have whatever retirement plans figured out. I don't know what she wants or expects. But like, and maybe I'm skewed on it a little bit. Like, my mother is older than my father. My grandparents, one of them, they had like a multi-decade age gap. So, shrug. Maybe it's just me and you.
Yeah, I just think that, like, calling someone who's 28 and 29 a baby blows my mind.
Yeah.
Blows my mind. And the fact that they use this, they didn't just say like, "Oh, you're so young." They used the word baby
you're a
twice.
Baby.
Yes. Like, wow. I'm just so, like, I'm shook, fam. I'm massive shook.
Shooketh for realeth.
This isn't skibbity at all.
I've been to Ohio, and let me tell you, it's looking like Ohio.
When it comes to the older ladies, Eric, I guess me and you have no riz.
We really do be the... I forgot all the brain rot. Thank goodness. I think I used it all.
We used all the ones that we know. But yeah, no, that was like... When you told me that story afterwards, because like we kind of, after the speed dating event, like compared notes and talked about our experience. And when you told me that, I'm just like, that's crazy. That's crazy that that's now happened twice. Because like, that means that that's a widespread like belief that people would have. which I just don't get. Like, I wouldn't even, I'm bad at math, I wouldn't even call, like, a 23, 22, 23-year-old, like, a baby. Like, oh, you graduated college and can drink and have, like, live on your own and, like, own a house? Like, you're not own a house, but, like, live on your own. Like, I wouldn't call that a baby. So to be called a baby at 29? Like, what?
I think it's the thing I said before, which, for those who don't remember, right, typically, like, in relationships, the man is older than the woman by, like, 4 or 5 years, and then it's, if this woman's 36, and then she's expecting a 40-year-old to settle down with, then the difference between 40 and 29 is 11 years, which is a bit more significant, and, like, at least then you can see the thread.
I guess.
It also, I wonder if it used to work for them young, when she was like 18 and some, 11-year-old she was babysitting was like, wow, I love you, I want to get married someday, miss. And she's like, you're a baby, because they were, more or less.
The difference between 11 and 18 is way different.
Well, yeah, but that's a 7-year difference. Yeah. You never had that with your babysitter?
I was never in love with my babysitter, no.
Oh. Yeah, me neither.
Or, no, I never had that. I know, like, some people are like, oh my god, I'm in love with the teacher, or like, oh my god, this, that, or the other thing. Like, no, I never had that.
Yeah, who would? Definitely. For reals.
That's maybe something we can unpack. We'll have
it is a little
episode.
It is a little and she later went on, she was like, oh, do you want a sugar mama? And I was like,
what?
I was like, listen, if it happens, it happens, but I don't need one.
That's crazy that she would say that. Like, what?
Yeah, and she laughed it off. She was like, no, I'm just, and I was like, you brought it up.
Yeah, wow. So the first time we went speed dating was just you. The second time it was me and you. This time we brought along one of our friends.
Yes.
So there's 3 of us. Now, I'm 28, you're 29, he's 30.
Wow.
And I know that he's like me and you were in the same school year. You're just a few months older than me. Whereas he's like 1 year older than us. But like, I know that when he turned 30, it was a big deal. Like, when you hit that number, like the number does matter. And I know that he feels that way. So like, I do get it, but to me, it's like, okay, but those couple of months between being 29 and being 30, it means a lot to you, the person, because you feel like you're getting older. But I don't think it's going to mature you that much. It's not like, oh, you hit the number and suddenly you're worth dating. Like, what?
Well, unless, and maybe we'll have to come back to this if we're going so far. Like, maybe once you do hit 30, you do hit an epiphany and you're like, whoa. And everyone 30 and up is hiding it and keeping it secret. But, like, once you hit your 30th birthday, at the exact minute you were born, you're like, wow, 20-year-olds are babies. And I am now a real adult.
Scary.
Yeah. Or you're just more likely to have a midlife crisis, and they think 20-year-olds don't have midlife crises.
20-year-olds have quarter-life crises. I've been having mine for 5 years.
I said that in the speed dating event. I was like, lols, I just had a quarter-life crisis. Teehee, I'm so quirky.
I mean, we turned 25 during COVID, so it was like a little, like those
True.
things lined up. But yeah, no, it's... That sentiment, like, it's not like it bothers me. It's just like, I guess that's a widespread thing that people believe. Okay. It's like putting Advil in your Christmas tree. I was not aware of this until today.
It makes me wonder, though, like, cougars is a thing, and like younger men looking for older women, be it for relationships or just more casual things. But like that's a common thing. That's not,
Yeah, so
this
she's a reverse
elaborate
cougar.
myth. But so like are cougars, do you have to hit past 30 for that to be applicable? Like, are you like, once you hit 40s, you're like, oh, that 20-year-old's not a baby anymore, but it's just you, and you've just gotten older, and your standards have become different? Like,
I don't know. I am not a cougar.
Could you be one so we can find out?
Oh my god. So how would you describe this event that we went to?
It was pretty alright, It was similar to the others, I'd say, overall. A little bit smaller. A little bit, there was 16 people total. Which...
So there were 9 men, 7 women.
No, it was the other way around.
Scratch that, reverse it. 9 women, 7 men.
7 men. And there were supposed to be 2 men, but 2 men were missing.
Yep.
Which makes me wonder, every event that I've been to where people have been missing, it's always been one gender. It's been like 2 women are missing, 3 men are missing, 2 men are missing. It's not like 1 girl and 2 guys.
Maybe they met up. Maybe they found love. But no, so this was a much smaller event. I said last time, I think that the 19 people we talked to was too many. I was getting like tired and my voice was hurting by the end. I don't think that the 9 we talked to this time was like enough. I kind of felt like unsatisfied. And so I think that somewhere in the middle would be ideal. Last time it was outside and it was like kind of hot and whatever. This time it was inside and it was loud. Yes. I was maybe like 2 feet away from our friend on my left and 2 feet away from Eric on my right. And it was too loud, and I'm partly deaf, and I hated it. I felt like I was yelling the entire time, and there was one woman who I couldn't understand a word she was saying.
Yeah. Yeah, she was quiet and just stayed quiet, which I get it, but unfortunate. It's so weird, too, when it gets loud like that, because I couldn't understand what anyone was saying, but it was just loud.
It was just a din. It was just a cacophony. It was just noise. I couldn't, like, pick out and hear anything that, like, Eric was saying or that our friend was saying on my left. Like, there was literally nothing. It was just, okay, everyone, start talking, and then... But no, I felt like, kind of like last time where there was no one who I was truly interested in. Sure. I'm making myself match with at least one person, no matter what we're doing. And so I did. I wrote down, like, yes, this person. And my reasoning is that she didn't have any, like, massive red flags. And so that was kind of like my like, okay, I can see this, I guess. If I go on this first date and she's perfect, then okay. Whereas everyone else had, like, something about them that, like, I didn't like. And then immediately afterwards, me and you and our friend were talking about the women, and you're like, oh, her? She? And then you, like, spouted off a story that she told you that made her, like, there was, like, a massive red flag, and I'm like, oh! Okay, well, I hope that she doesn't match with me back, and she didn't, and so I'm happy.
Yeah. Yeah, and you know what's funny about that as well?
Mm-hmm.
I said that she was a Jersey girl, and... If, for people that weren't here or maybe don't remember, I said that about a girl before in one of our previous speed datings where I circled no on both girls because they were Jersey girls. And each time, Devon has circled yes on the Jersey girls. So Devon has a type.
The 2 that Eric labeled as Jersey girls were the 2 that I liked. But that's not... I just disagree. When I think Jersey girl, I think Snooki. These were not Snookies. These were normal people.
Normal people can be Jersey girls.
I disagree.
You're insane.
I disagree. Jersey girl means Snooki. Very specific person, not normal. It's an East Coast Kardashian. That's what Jersey girl means.
What? You're...
Dark tanned Italian with like a Valley Girl attitude.
And that's what they looked like. What do you
disagree.
mean? They had black/dark brown hair with tan skin.
Jersey
and
girls
were at least
attitude,
50% Italian.
It's an attitude, not a look.
Oh my gosh.
Anyway.
You're right. I'm annoyed because it's an attitude, not a look.
My God. Anyway. Yes, that is what happened.
Wait, I need people to comment. Be part of the conversation.
Yeah, okay.
What is a Jersey girl?
If someone says that's a Jersey girl, what do you think? And is that a positive or a negative? Because I think that's a major negative, and it makes me think of Snooki from the Jersey Shore.
It is neutral with leaning to negative of an Italian or very, not necessarily from Italy. What is it? Heritage?
Yeah.
With, like, black hair, like not...
I will
very
say that
stylized makeup.
Yes, very heavy makeup.
In leather?
Like fake hair.
Not even fake, just like really done.
Weave. Yeah, big curly permed, maybe even. Fake tan, that kind of stuff.
Well, it doesn't have to be fake. But just
anyway,
tan.
I'm pretty sure these two women were Hispanic, so already not Jersey girls.
Well, I guess maybe she didn't tell you. She told me she's 50% Italian.
Oh, okay. So, anyway. Me and you, different tastes. Different tastes.
Devon likes Jersey girls. I
don't.
You do. If I could... Continuing.
So
we could die on this hill for hours.
My experience was, one of them I couldn't understand. I didn't really like any of them. And when I say red flag, I don't mean like they kicked puppies. I just mean like, I don't think that I'd be compatible with this person. Like one of them didn't have a job. And I'm like, well, I don't really like see myself with someone who doesn't like... Okay, let's say that we settle down, get married, and have kids, and they want to be a homemaker and not work. That's fine. But if you're in your 20s and you just don't have a job, then I'm like, okay, no thank you. I say this knowing that you don't have a job, but that's different because you're on this podcast. So this is a job. You have a job. It's this podcast. You're the host of Slapendipity.
You don't have to call me out like this.
I'm not calling you out. I'm just saying that is something that for me is something that I would not want to pursue a date with that person.
I get it, Devon. Yeah. I'm not the person for you. You have to keep rubbing salt in the wound.
But Eric, you're at least 50% Italian, and you're very tan.
I don't have black hair though.
Well, you don't have any hair, but yeah.
Whoa. I got an outline. Thank you very much.
So when we first get in, we sit down. A lot of the people there had never gone to one of these before, which was also true last time.
Yes.
But we get there, we sit down, and the lady's like, we're missing 3 people, so it's going to take a while for us to start the event. So just like chat amongst yourselves. And so the girl I'm sitting across from is like, I've never done one of these before. And we start talking. And so we probably talk for like 5 minutes before then the event begins. And so we talk for 5 minutes and then another 5 minutes. So like that was the longest conversation I had with anyone. And she said, and like this is now the second time that this has happened, and I don't know how to respond, but she's like, oh my God, you have the nicest smile.
What a compliment.
It was a compliment. And like last time someone said I had nice eyes, and I just like don't know how to like what to say.
Thank you. Oh my gosh, you have lovely hair.
Yeah, so like right, so that's what you should say is thank you and then compliment the other person.
Yeah.
But I find it very off-putting, especially if I don't have this kind of me, but like I don't have anything to say about the other person. And it's not like, oh my God, everything about them is ugly. It's just that they sit down and I don't immediately notice like, oh my God, they do have nice eyes. Oh my God, they do have nice hair. So it'd be kind of like lying for me to be like, oh my God, I love your hair. Like, I'm not going to lie.
You don't even have to say you love it. You can just say, oh, you have a nice smile too. Or you have nice...
Well, that just kind of sounds like it just kind of sounds like flirting at that point, and like you're reciprocating.
No, it
and if you
doesn't.
don't want to reciprocate, I give up.
Reciprocate.
Yeah, if you don't want to do that, then like you shouldn't, you know?
I mean,
I just feel like
there's
it's
also
very
a level
forward.
of politeness.
It's very forward during a speed date to start just like saying that kind of stuff,
people.
in my opinion. I do
It's
not enjoy it.
To compliment people.
On their physical appearance, yes.
That's just how compliments are. That's just how it... Oh my gosh, your hair is so great. That doesn't mean I want to bang you or anything.
But it's a speed date.
But it still doesn't mean that, though. If she said that and put her hand out on top of yours, then you can have alarms going. But if she's just standing straight and is looking at you and is talking to you and is like, wow, you have a nice smile, and then just continues the conversation, that doesn't mean that she just had a thought and said it. That doesn't mean anything.
I just think in the circumstances that we were in, it's not an appropriate thing to do. That's my opinion.
You could have liked her sense of style.
But like if I don't, then I don't. Well, I don't know.
But then just, you know, be like, whoa, I like the thing you're drinking. I don't think it's... I think it's just being polite and exchanging pleasantries. You know, if we were strangers and I walked up to you and a friend introduced us and I went, nice to meet you, and you went, it's okay to meet you, like...
Well, no. So I think if it's strangers, like I've been in a circumstance where like you're in a group of people and I was like a stranger come up to the group and just like compliment someone and be like, oh my God, you're so pretty. And they're like, thanks. And like, that was it. Because they were a stranger. And then you move on and you know that like what they're like, all they're doing is saying like, hey, you're pretty. And like, that's it. Yeah. Or if you're on like the first date, like if we do speed dating and then we go on a first date and then start complimenting, then like, okay, now you're flirting because we're literally on a date. But when we're in the circumstance of being on a speed date, and so like the entire purpose of this conversation we're having is to see if we're compatible, and the first thing you do is like compliment my appearance, I'm going to be like, okay, this person's obviously already more invested than I am, which makes me uncomfortable.
I disagree.
Well, that's how I
think you can have your feelings. I think it's the similar thing of the stranger. Also, I don't think just because you're on a date or speed date or whatever, a compliment is automatically flirting. There are levels to compliment giving and flirting. If they're twirling their hair or make eye contact with you a lot, or
I mean, the entire thing should be eye contact because it's a 4-minute conversation.
But yeah,
no,
I likes eye contact.
No, I think that if you start complimenting, if I say, hey, I like your sweater, that's different, right? But if you're complimenting the person's physical appearance, then you know.
But some people just have amazing smiles, and they need to be told.
Okay, I don't think I'm one of them. She also, this is the same person. She asked me. Well, so she was talking about like a hairstylist. So like the topic of hair was brought up. And she just asks me point blank if I'm bald. So for the last event, I did not wear a hat because I wanted to be forward with people so that they knew I was bald. For this event, I just kind of didn't care as much. You can tell that I'm bald, that I don't have hair under my hat.
I mean,
so you can.
People. I mean, you can.
So I shaved my head, so you can just tell that like there's I don't have the hair on the sides that the hat doesn't cover. Like I just don't have any. So she asked me if I'm bald, and I say yes, and she just goes like, okay, like I like bald guys.
Hey.
So she's like, you have a nice smile. I like bald guys. I'm just like, this is way too forward for us not even having our 5-minute date yet.
At that compliment, I would be like, okay, something's going on. That's a very specific compliment to be gotten and everything.
Yeah, so like during the course of our conversation, so like talking, right? And just for people following the story at home, just because we got on a million tangents, this is not the person I ended up circling yes on.
No, different person.
Like during the course of the conversation, like talked about our families, talked about our jobs, she ended up being very religious. And so she was talking about, like she goes to church all the time and she doesn't drink or smoke. And so I then segue that into like, oh my God, I didn't live in like a strict household or anything like that, but I also don't drink or smoke. And like, I'm also religious. And so like we talked about that. So let's say that we had this conversation and it went really well. And then sort of after that connection was made, because I personally think that's very, a very minority thing is to, like, I think there's very few people who don't drink or smoke. And when I say I don't drink, I drink very, very occasionally. And so I think after that connection's made, if she then says, you have a nice smile, well, then I get it. Right, now I'm like, okay, that's the signal. That's like this little dance we're doing. We're like, okay, we have something in common. We're compatible. And now you're complimenting my appearance. So what you're doing is you're indicating that you are more interested than you previously were. And so now you're inviting me to compliment your appearance. And if I compliment your appearance, then we both know now that we're on the same page of like, attraction and connection. And so then maybe we'd move on to like the next thing, which would be like, oh my God, like, do you want kids? Like, do you want this? Right? Like you move the conversation forward in little steps, right? Which is flirting. That's the definition of flirting. So I think that would be the appropriate time to do that. Not like immediately.
I think that's wild.
Okay,
I don't think flirting is like the gates to conversations.
Flirting is a dance. It's what birds do with presenting feathers and stuff.
I mean, those aren't dances. You're thinking butterflies and insects.
The same thing.
But like, well, there's so much. I don't think kids would come up on speed dating, which I can be wrong. But I don't think anyone...
I disagree. I've had multiple of these conversations where people are... Where the women states that, like, they want kids. Like,
really?
It came up.
How did that not
come
up?
Yeah.
How did we not talk about this? None of my conversations throughout any speed dating event have the topic of, like, kids come up.
I think it came up 4 times the first time we went and maybe twice this time.
That's
they mentioned that they want kids.
Crazy. What?
Yeah. What?
Well, because that never happened to me.
I'm surprised
that
didn't happen to you. Huh. And it's always the woman who brings it up. No. Because I would almost think that that's too forward. Some people might disagree. They might be like, if I'm speed dating, I want to sit down and I'm going to ask, like, do you believe in marriage? Do you want to have kids? How many kids do you want? What's your job? And if they answer wrong to those 4, then you just, like, don't bother, right? Like, that's totally a valid attitude to have. It's just not the attitude I have. But no, a lot of them are like, I want kids. I want this, etc.
Well, you say a lot, but then you said a total of 6 people out of the, 30? Which is
19 plus 9, 27.
A fifth.
Yeah.
I don't think that's a lot. It's not nothing.
Well, it's a lot compared to you being surprised that it happened that it happened at all.
This is true.
Huh. But yeah, I'm just noting that I did not enjoy that the 2 times that it has happened.
What for? What?
The like beginning of the conversation having a compliment on my physical appearance. Did not like that.
Is it because you don't know how to receive compliments?
Maybe, but we can unpack that in the babysitting and receiving compliments episode.
Okay. How else did you feel about it? The speed dating or is that about it?
Not interested. The people there, their hot chocolate was amazing.
Yep.
And it was too loud. Too loud. Also, unlike last time where like all the women were from the town that it was in and the men had traveled far, in this one, a lot of the men were from the town it was in, but the women traveled. Very, very different, I guess. Very odd.
It really makes you think.
I don't know what it makes you think about, but yeah, it is different. So, again, the conclusion is I didn't have any matches, which is a good thing. You can tell them what happened with you.
Oh, you know, not much happened on my end. I circled on about half of the people, which I don't feel bad about saying this time, because it was 9 people total. And one of them was like, oh, we should talk about, like, work things and stuff. So, I feel even like, it's fine. But I got no matches. However, the staff loves me. So, you know, that's the real win. That's the real match.
Getting in there with the staff.
Yeah. Soon I'm going to be going for free. Yikes. It came out of my mouth and I didn't like it.
So, okay. Yeah, so our buddy that we went with ended up getting 2 matches. You know,
good for him.
If those, like, let's say that the day goes well and he gets a girlfriend or whatever, and then I'll be like, oh my god, it was successful, that's great. But otherwise, like, I'm not going to impede on, like, his personal life and, like, tell his stories on the show.
No.
But, yeah, it's great. You know, he got matches. I think it was, you know, a good experience. I will say that if this had been the first one we did, I would probably not want to go to any other ones. I just feel it was less well run. So, like, it wasn't until the end of the first... I think the lady running it was flustered because people didn't show up, and I think it was just her there, and it was a very tight and loud area. And so it wasn't until after the first set of dates that she gave the instructions, where she's like, the women are going to rotate clockwise. And just the way that people sat in their little booths, like, some of the women had to, like, get up and move to the next table, and then the men had to switch and sit where the woman had just been sitting so that the women could switch easier. Like, it was just not as cohesively run, and there were we had 3 people not show up, which when there's only 18 people is a lot, versus having a few people show up when there's 40 people. And it didn't last very long. Again, it was only 9 matches for 5 minutes or whatever.
It didn't last very long because there weren't as many people.
Yeah, so it just didn't seem as worth it. So, like, again, if this was the first one we went to, I'd be like, this is stupid. I don't like this. But because the first one was such a good experience, I am willing to do it again in January at some point.
Yeah, you better be. And I think a lot of your complaints, like, you can see, as you already did, right? Like, people weren't showing up, so maybe she was a little flustered. There's normally 3 staff people. This time it was just 1 person. It was in an area that was probably newer. The seating arrangements were chairs and tables. This had, like, booths in it. So, like, people got confused by that and didn't know how to walk properly. Or, like, it was kind of small, so people ended up bumping into each other. I think a lot of it you can, you give the benefit of the doubt. You go,
That's how I would summarize the events.
A+. That's what that means.
Oh no, more like, I'm running screaming. So yeah, if anyone listening to this, if you have any speed dating stories, I'd love to hear them in the comments or at slapendipity@gmail.com. I will say that now for the second time, but this time there was 3 of us, afterwards we, like, would compare notes and, like, had a conversation about the people we talked to. And it's always so funny how, like, we can talk to the same people and we all come away with completely different information about their lives. Because I feel like I'm saying the same thing to everyone. I have, like, a short little speech I give. Whereas, like, I'd be like, I like this person, and then you were like, oh, well, that person said this to me, and I'm like, oh, never mind. And I'm like, that's so odd. Also, none of the women there came with friends, whereas me, you, and our friend were literally half of the men. We were 3 out of the 7 men.
Well, you know.
But the last time, there was, like, a group of, like, 5 women who were all teachers or something, or nurses or something. So yeah, it was just different crowd, different venue, different experience.
Yeah. Geography plays a role, and that's why you should study your maps.
Yeah, study your maps like you're Dora the Explorer. All right, thanks everyone for listening to this episode of Slapendipity, Hobos of Happy Slappy Town. We're not gonna have a better wrap up than that.
Can you find the goodbye?
Can you find the subscribe button? It's right below the video if you're on YouTube.
Good job. Say goodbye. Perfect.